Welcome to Beyond My Crisis. I'm your co-host, Ron Rossnick.
And I'm Vivian Gaspar. We are here right now for a part 2 of a really critical topic. We're here to talk about making love and marriage or long-term relationships last the stand and the tests of time and all the challenges that can possibly arise, though they are very numerous.
And we have Jim Cullum, who's an author of the book, Let Me Show You How I Love You. Jim brings the wisdom of having interviewed over 700 women, as well as being happily married for over 43 years.
We also have Mary McNutt. She's a doctorate student of brain science, a CPA, MBA, and expert in attracting love, health, and money. She is the author of Sexy Love, Shine Your Beauty from the Inside Out, the easy guide to attracting your perfect mate. It's you. Welcome back, both of you. We are thrilled that you're able to give us so much of your insight on really curing as much as possible one of the most society ills possible, the destruction of the American family through divorce. And unfortunately, the statistics have told us that second and third divorce are even more dramatically higher than, unfortunately, the 50% statistic of first marriage. So let's see what we could do to overcome those horrendous statistics with a little bit more understanding. And let's start some basics. Sex and love are unfortunately often interchangeable. You have the beginning, and then you have more mature love. So let's start with what is sexy? Mary, as the woman, let's talk about that for a second. What is sexy to you and what isn't it?
I think sexy is confidence, it's independence, it's excitement for life, it's showing that you care about yourself. I think sexy is not a sin. I think it is not dirty. I think it is not shameful. And when we think it is, then we might find ourselves having trouble that we wouldn't have if we upgraded our link to that term.
You just touched on something, and I just want to ask really quickly. Does that Me Too movement have any relationship within the realm of long-term committed relationships in that sexy phrase?
Absolutely. The Me Too movement, I think, is a divine gift we're experiencing in our society right now. There's transformation happening, and sometimes you have to have a breakdown to have a breakthrough. And our breakthrough in society is another level of both sexes, the female and male, having equal respect for each other. In the past, we've had this idea that sex is sinful and shameful and dirty, and without really digging in and deciding whether it is or isn't, oftentimes there's mischief around sex because people are thinking it's the sin, and yet we have a biological craving to have an intimate partner.
Jim, that brings us to you because it's sex and, of course, love, the long-term, stand the test of time type of love. So to you, you've actually interviewed over 700 women for your book over the course of 4 years or more, actually. So what is it that you've found through these interviews that love is and isn't?
Love is not necessarily physical. Physical comes into it. But when you really love somebody, you care about a person. You're concerned about how they feel, how they think, what they're doing. You know, you're a team with them. You work together as a team because love is a two-way street. I can love one person to death, and if that person doesn't love me, it's not going to work. So it's a two-way street, and you have to work at it. It takes energy. And again, it's not, you know, years ago people would say, wow, that person's sexy because they had the bikini on, they had the particular figure, the fashion models. That only works for a very small, maybe 3 or 4% of the society. That's a very small percent.
Most younger people, they go for love that gets them the oxytocin release. So that's an initial love. That's where that passion comes in. But that is not a permanent situation. How do we define that? How do we cross over to a more mature love? What happens there?
You keep the intimacy alive. We're in a discussion about long-term intimate relationships. And once you get married, for example, you you can't ignore your intimate relationship and think it will keep itself strong. You want to keep investing in your intimate relationship. Jim and I were talking before the show about having your different priorities, whether it be spirituality, love, careers, family, marriage, and if you're bankrupt in your marriage because you've been so busy with your career and your children that you've ignored your marriage, you're going to lose it. What?
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
The attention might wander elsewhere
So we-
because that other person that you're ignoring has a need that's now not being filled by
So
their partner.
we have to balance our time in our life for relationships, for family, and for business.
And defining in writing what are your top priorities, and then making sure you put attention into each of those. So if I say my top priorities are spirituality, career, family, marriage, and health, maybe if I'm finding myself ill over and over again, maybe I've put too much of a balance in these other 4 areas and not enough balance in my personal health. And part of that comes up in the discussion of intimate relationships because it's quite frankly sexy to have a healthy partner, and it's not that sexy to have a partner that's sick all the time and allows themselves to fall apart.
Right, so health and physical well-being is a very important component. But in the United States, we seem to be so connected to wealth. Like if our partner's not making enough money, we're disappointed with them, or there's an expectation that never really gets realized. How do we handle money issues now?
So if you don't have enough money, your relationship's going to crumble. Would you agree, Jim?
Yeah, but
Or-
as an example, I have a friend who's a doctor, has a very, very lucrative practice, and he hates it. He said that he would rather have a bed and breakfast up in Vermont and just have a simple, comfortable life. And it's what makes you happy. And money can make you comfortable, but money can't make you happy.
Well, and that goes back to the mission statement. What is important in each intimate relationship? Because what's important in my marriage may be different than what's important in Jim's marriage, for example. So I want to keep my mission statement evolving with me. I've been with my partner for 23 years. What was important to us when we met in our 20s isn't the same priorities as it is now in our 50s.
So you've changed your mission statement.
And we've changed ourselves.
How many times?
Many times, and I hope a lot more.
I was actually just going to say how many times have you changed
Forever.
that?
It will never stop evolving. That's my mission
That's
for
very
myself.
important for people
Never
to know
stop evolving.
that relationships and personal communication, it's an evolving learning process.
If you're not evolving, you're dying.
Well, okay, so let's pretend for a second we talk about all those people who felt a betrayal. Perhaps one person felt so consumed with maybe the children or their career that they inadvertently didn't pay attention to themselves or their partner, and then the partner strayed. Is there ways to get past a betrayal, or are we really doomed to say, that's it, I'm fed up, I'm getting a divorce because you betrayed me? What do you think?
I think if both people are willing to take an honest look, for an example, I'm a parent and I put all of my emphasis in raising our children together while my husband is having a craving for touch, and I'm ignoring his need for touch, his love language. And when all is said and done, I've ignored one of my 5 important areas and it went bankrupt. If my husband, for example, this happens a lot of times, my husband ends up cheating, if you will, having an extramarital affair. And now we are faced with the decision, do we stay or do we go? And the stay in my book talks about, are you both willing to look at how you got to this new level of your relationship? So it atrophied. Are you both willing to look at how it atrophied, where you weren't putting energy into it?
And you recommend writing this down, like
Yes.
really formalizing
Oh, yeah.
the needs, the wants, the wishes, and even the psychology of each of the partners.
It's the compass.
Thoughts are fleeting energy. When you put it on paper, it becomes real. The best psychologist I had, with the psychology I took in college and everything, but my best psychologist was Ann Landers. And she used to say, put it on paper and it becomes real, and then you can both see it and then start to make logical, rational decisions about what's there.
Well, I would also like to go further in by saying, is that the only thing that can kill intimacy? What kills intimacy?
Lack of action.
Yeah, love is an action word. Right. And you have to put energy into it. It's like you put a fire in a fireplace, okay? And it gets hot and it burns and you feel really good. But if you don't stoke the fire, you don't throw some more wood on there, it's going to go out.
Right?
Great analogy. I love that.
And that's a challenge because sometimes in our daily life we get so caught up between if people have kids, that could be all-consuming. If they have a parent that has health needs, if they have financial crisis, there's so many ways that adults are being pulled these days.
And that's with that mission statement. I personally have a mission statement for my health. I have a mission statement for my career. I have a mission statement for my marriage, always evolving. I have mission statements for my spirituality and the things that are important to me, so that as life's us, as things come up, circumstances change, we can look at that mission statement and say, can I keep focused on that and get a solution to this crisis that came up?
And do you memorize these mission statements?
Absolutely.
Can you share something, an example with us?
My health mission statement is inner peace. It's how I can measure whether or not the move I'm making is peaceful. For example, if I were to drink alcohol and feel crummy inside, that's not inner peace. If I were to argue with my husband, that's not inner peace. If I am never taking time putting me on the schedule of self-care, that doesn't lead me to inner peace, it leads me to stress.
Sometimes pressure makes diamonds, I hear.
That is true. So I love the breakdown. I'm not opposed to breakdowns if you're looking for the lessons. My husband and I have a mission statement that says life is always working out for us. So even in the worst of times, and we've had plenty, we're together 23 years, life is always working out. So that makes us look for solutions instead of thinking, maybe I should just give up on you.
Right, so embrace a lesson that may be coming.
Look for the lessons.
Okay.
See, society today has changed a lot over the past 43 years. Today, everything is disposable. Use once and throw away. Diapers are disposable. Everything is disposable now. Back in the day, if something was broke, you fixed it. And you kept it. I mean, we had a television for 26 years because we got it tuned up every couple of years. Now you're lucky if it lasts 6 or 7 years and they fall apart. And people do that with their marriages too.
So in this consumer society, we throw out electronics, get new electronics, but with relationships, we need to really think about what's at stake, especially if parents have children together. That's an important issue while you want to keep that marriage together.
I've told my husband, as we've had some challenges in our 23 years together, and we have a son together, and he said, please don't give up on me. I'm always trying to evolve. And I said, I wouldn't give up on you. You're not just my boyfriend or just my husband. You're my family. You're the father of my son. There's a whole new level of commitment to fixing the crisis.
That's really touching to say that you're my family.
You're
I'm not giving up on
you. And that's true. I have lots of friends that are have no children in their marriage, but they're family to each other. They're husband and wife, they're family. They might have some four-legged children in there, but that's beside the point. You're still family. If that's who you come home to every night, that's your family.
And I think something that helps there, and for some people this is difficult because I taught in the hospital for 22 years and I had a lot of people give me a hard time about this. When I would go around the room, I had patients sitting around a big conference table, and I'd say, you are the most important person in your life. You have to take care of you first, and then everything else will fall into place nicely. But if you short-cheat yourself and you don't eat right, you don't sleep right, you don't do all the things that you should be doing for you, for your benefit, everybody else suffers. And the relationship starts to suffer then.
As long as you're not a clinical narcissist.
That's not balance,
Yeah.
right? You've got to have the balance in anything that's important to you, whether it's your career, whether it's your financial plans, whether it's your relationship.
Now, you were talking before we started filming about the energy of love. And can you tell us a little bit what that means? I mean, you have the energy of love, and you even mentioned that it's a real thing, which I never realized. Orgasmic energy vibrates at the same level as unconditional love. What does that mean?
So I'm a doctorate student in quantum physics, and what I study is the vibrational world we live in. I can interpret what you're saying through vibrationally interpreting the sound. I can look at you and vibrationally interpret the colors. I can vibrationally interpret taste on my tongue. We also have a love that is taking action, and there's an energy level measurable. You can stick stickers on your brain and see which parts of your brain are lighting up. And when you get higher and higher to about 560 megahertz, a vibrational measurable level, things that are also vibrating at that same level are orgasm, are unconditional love, are a feeling of abundance, are feelings of support, like just feelings of
Everything
peace.
has a vibration.
So-
the chair has a vibration. The
so-
walls vibrate.
So we all really have untapped superpowers like Daredevil,
Yeah.
where he senses vibration at such a heightened level. We have to train ourselves. How do we train ourselves to sense this vibration?
So it's truly a vibrational scale. So depression feels like a really low energy. Joy feels like a much higher energy. Your emotions are your guidance to your vibrational energy. When I feel bad inside, I want to work towards upgrading. If I get towards 560 megahertz of vibration, I'm going to have abundance and health and love and joy show up.
But how do we improve that? What are we doing? What's 2 steps that we can do to improve that?
How do I feel right now? If
So
I
ask
feel
our
crummy,
question, how do I feel right now?
how do I feel right now? How can I upgrade my thoughts? So every day we have about 90,000 thoughts. Approximately 80% of them are a repeat of the day before, the day before, and the day before. And 90% of our thoughts are subconscious. What we want to do, like the master computers that we are, is go into our internal thinking and look for thoughts that are stopping us and see if
Brilliant.
we can upgrade them.
So our awareness has to raise, and then we have a negative thought. What's a simple way to kind of cure that negative thought and stay on that
Write
positive?
it down and then write a better version of that thought.
Okay.
For
Write
example,
down the
I don't
negative
have
thought.
enough time. And time is a priority. So what I have is enough time for the things that are most important to me.
Okay.
And if you don't have
Fantastic.
time to write it down, when I teach this to the people I work with as well, if you don't have the time to write it down, then you can just say the word cancel.
Cancel.
Cancel, and then immediately replace it with another thought that's the positive opposite of that thought.
So we have to be writing our story as we go
Constantly.
along.
And tune into your feelings. That's the best way. Keep tuning into your feelings. If I'm feeling bad, I must be thinking something that's limiting me in
Wow.
my confidence.
Well, I've got to ask, though, I'm going to interject and ask, what if you have this awareness that you want to do it, but your spouse doesn't?
The high vibration is a much stronger magnetic pull than the low vibrations. And if you have your mission statement, which I call my North Star, so if my mission is to stay peaceful, if my relationship mission is love above all else, if I'm down here, oh, I'm mad at him, I know that's not my mission statement. If I feel inside, oh, I'm mad at him, I know it's not my health mission statement to be peaceful inside. I'm choosing to let the stressful hormones flow through all of my cells. It's not honoring my cells, it's not honoring my marriage. And so ultimately, if you get a big enough why do I want this marriage to work? Why do I want to feel healthy inside? Then you are motivated
Right.
to keep tuning back in.
People have to break out of that habit. They could be in this habit for decades, and it's even harder. It's like an alcoholic that just has drunk themselves silly. There's something that has to shake them up to get them out of that terrible comfort zone.
I'm 55, and I know that I've had 55 years of training in one set of habits, my neural network. And so in order to upgrade to new habits, it's not going to happen overnight. I personally have positive notes in my bathroom, on my computer, in my phone, in my kitchen, different places. It surprised me out of my old habitual habits. I might be looking at my sink and all of a sudden I remember to be grateful that my hot water heater is working, right? I wouldn't have thought of that had I not left a reminder note. So I have reminder notes to help to keep upgrading every time I see those notes.
That's brilliant.
And keep in mind that the emotional state of your mind and body dictates the chemical state of your body. And they've got studies we could quote all night about people who are under a lot of stress are sicker more often than people who are not. And it's usually infectious types of illnesses, the colds, flus, and pneumonias.
And cancer.
Dis-ease.
So
Dis-ease.
So how can you help your spouse? I mean, if you see that they're stressed, they're overwhelmed, what could you do to uphold that mission statement and help them in their time of they're feeling overwhelmed?
Well, two things that I do with mine. Sometimes if I see that something's a little off balance with what she's going through, I'll walk up to her and I'll hold her right in front of me and I'll look her right in the eyes and I say, you need a hug. And I'll give her a hug. Sometimes she says, wow, that just feels so good. Once or twice, the tears came down and she said, I've had such a rotten day. And it makes a huge difference because you're acknowledging that you recognize. And sometimes they don't know it. They're so into it. They're so stressed. They're so upset. They don't realize that they're in that place. And when you let them know about it gently, kindly, it's the way the presentation is made, and you let them know, and they, wow, I didn't realize that. It shows.
So the way we speak to each other is very important. You know, there's some statistic about how words are a small part of the communication. Really, how we say it and our body language are the major part of communication.
And being okay with having problems. It's okay. I say if you have a problem that can be solved by action, you don't have a problem. If my action is my husband and I need to go to a marriage counselor or somebody who's got better answers than us, that's an action I can take. Therefore, I only have a puzzle. How do we solve this puzzle? Right?
Yes.
So we're constantly looking for what's important to us and how bad do I want to help out my partner. So if I see that my husband is just in this grumpy, overwhelmed mood, I could either A, go take one of his chores off his list. Maybe he's been pulling all the weeds and I've just thought I need to keep the inside clean while he's pulling all the weeds. Maybe I go out and pull the weeds the next day, so that's one less thing. He feels more on a team.
Or just request for a volunteer to help him out.
Yes, right. Or say, should we start budgeting in a person to come and take care of that chore so that we can both be good at our careers and not waste our time weeding the garden when somebody else needs a job weeding gardens?
Yes.
Are there other tips that both of you can tell us? I mean, you had wonderful, long-standing relationships, and just to stay more well-bonded. Jim?
To stay more well-bonded, again, paying attention. It really boils down to that. When you pay attention and let them know that you're paying attention. You do a lot of things together, but then they also need their own free time. My wife sings. She sings in a choir. She goes to practice on Tuesday nights. She goes out, and the girls get together every now and then for a breakfast or a lunch. Go, have a great time. And you work with each other, and you give each other the space. You support each other. I mean, I'll go to listen to her sing on certain days, and I say, wow, you guys sounded really good today. Or once in a while, hey, maybe you need to change the microphone position just a little bit. It wasn't picking up the one section, Nicely, you do it in a very soft, laid-back way. You don't come down heavy on somebody. It's the presentation again. It's
And
how
watch
you
your
present
words.
it.
Your words,
like
your
what
inflection, and
I
be
just
kind.
spoke about.
Be very
Yes.
kind.
Exactly.
How you say it.
And
And at
not
the
just
end-
what you say, it's how you say it. Mary, one last bit
At
of
the end
wisdom.
of the day, if you have written down your mission for your marriage or your long-term intimate relationship, if you keep going back to that, be willing as a couple to evolve the words in it and make that your compass. So you go after that mission,
Great. That's perfect.
long-term
Thank you so much. This was really informative, and if we can all put this to action and then get into these books, I think we'll have really successful relationships easily, right? Guaranteed.
And guess what? I think that's the same basis of divorce proofing first, second, and maybe even third marriages. Thank you. Jim and Mary, thank you for being a shining example of what we all can be.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching Beyond My Crisis, and we are delighted to have problem-solving people here to make our relationships better and better.